Bleachers with Dave McCrae, but I guess as you can see, Dave hasn't made it today. He's missing in action. So we've had an actual virtual Dave join us, and if you get a close look at the virtual Dave's a propeller head, and it helps, I guess, the thought process is what he says.
It's actually the better looking version.
Much better. And it's
Lets
a
me
lot
think
quieter
like
too,
Dave.
Rich, you know what I mean?
I get to bond with Dave's spirit.
Well, anyway, joining me today is my brother Scott Wallace, a.k.a. Virtual Dave, and from WGAM Sports, Rich Flera. And a little later on in the show, we're going to have some really exciting news about some new programming going on at WGAM, and something that Rich is going to be taking part of and leading. But that's just a little teaser. So I guess, guys, why don't we go into last week and talk about the Bills game, which I look at it as a tale of two halves, because I'll tell you, I was pretty scared going into the halftime, especially after the great play Wolfwick made to save it from going 21-7. But in any case, I look at it as a tale of two halves. So if we could break it down like that, why don't you give me your impressions of the first half and what you saw and what you didn't see?
Well, to me, the first half was your classic case of letting a team hang around. Gostowski missed those 2 field goals. Could have been 13-0. Like, that's not a gigantic difference from 7, but it makes a difference if you're scoring on those drives and the other team knows that you're scoring on every drive. Instead, you miss the 2 field goals. You give them a glimmer of hope. They capitalized. Basically, they were capitalizing on our turnovers where we weren't really capitalizing on their turnovers in the first half.
Great point.
So 21-7, but that seemed to set us off, and we went in the locker room, made our adjustments, and came out shooting.
Unbelievable. What do you think was missing, Scott? I mean, that first half, I really thought. I mean, it was the first time. Actually, the flip side of that, it was the first time this year that the Patriots have grabbed the ball after the kickoff and taken it in for an opening drive, and
Yeah.
so I guess that was a good statement. Felt pretty good after the opening drive, but what's going to happen after that?
Well, I think the team, my personal opinion, I think the team with Menkins out, the line just seemed kind of hesitant more than anything. If you look at the second half, they just ran the ball down their throat, and the line was just phenomenal. But I think they just had personally, Rich says adjustments. I think basically they went into the halftime. I think it's either Belichick or Brady or the Italian team just said, enough. Enough. It's Buffalo, for crying out loud. We're taking this crap from them.
Yeah.
Enough.
Yeah.
But just to see them run the ball like they did, that's just insane. I haven't seen that in, God, decades.
Well, I guess it was since 1982. It was the 82 season. It was one of the trivia questions they flashed on the national feed. And when they first came up with it, I thought right away when I heard 2 100-yard rushes simultaneous, Craig James, Tony Collins.
Yep.
And I guess it was half right.
Collins.
Who would have thought that the second one was Mark Van Egan, actually, for the 82 thing? I mean,
For my time.
a little bit before the big guy's time here.
Well, even when we had Van Egan, he was in the twilight of his career, too. He's still a great back. I mean, he's solid back, but for him to run over 100, man, that's...
You talk about being buzzards, all right? Here's a trivia question for you. At one point, the Patriots' starting backfield was Mark Van Egan and George Foreman.
All right.
Things that will actually make you no money in life or just waste your time.
Back to what you said, the adjustments that we made at the locker room,
Huge.
like you said, running. They obviously went in the locker room, saw that they were constantly in nickel, dime, quarter packages. They were so small. I think they had one linebacker out there most of the time playing the pass, and they went in the locker room and said, look, let's just smash it down their throat. They want to play this game with us and play all these defensive backs. Let's just maul them up front and let the guys run. And that's what they did. They were constantly getting to the second level before they were even touched. And I was impressed with Bolden and Ridley, but I was more impressed with the guys up front, and especially Donald Thomas filling in for Logan Mankins. Vollmer finally had a really, really good game. And those guys up front are just going to get better and better as the year goes. So people can make what they want from it, all the scrutiny that they've caught flack for. But they're going to get better and better and better as they gel as a unit, and that's so underrated. Offensive lines, the more they gel as a unit, the better they play.
Oh, God, yeah.
So
Yeah, fingers a glove, my coach used to say. Fingers are a glove, and until you get to that point, which is why it was surprising to see the effort they had in the second half without Mankins, because he is clearly the thumb of that glove, or the 2 in the eye, or whatever you want to call it. He's been called for a couple of those. So outscoring Buffalo 45-7 in the second half, they spin this thing around and really win it walking away. And, quite frankly, going into halftime, I was really concerned. I guess at that's last week, which puts us 2-2. We'll talk a little later on what happened in the AFC East, but. At this point, I'd like to talk about a new show that's going to be debuting, I guess, on WGAM. And our co-host here, Rich Fleur, is going to be the host. And Rich, why don't you tell us about the new program coming on WGAM?
Excuse me. Sorry. About that. Yes, I start my own Sports Talk Saturday show. It's going to be from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. It's just an hour long, but you can talk sports with me. You can call in. You can tell me whether I'm right, I'm wrong. You can give me an opinionary on it. I'd love to hear from you. 883-9900 WGAM, ESPN New Hampshire. And I'm really excited about it. I'm also on Monday through Friday, 6 to 7. It's not my show, but I'm on there as well. So,
right, which is Friday Night Lights, which are a part of the Friday Night Lights, the whole programming. And I'll go a couple minutes. I mean, it's amazing what you guys are doing. And I played a little high school ball back in the day, back when black and white pitches were epic.
Dinosaurs.
And just to get local recognition like that, especially your ESPN radio, that's fantastic. Tell the folks how much you covered during a Friday night, which I think is fantastic.
Oh, we have by far, bar none, the best coverage of high school football in all of the state. We have 8 correspondents that are out at games, and they give live updates to the station. The station quarterbacks it, and they're on from 7 to midnight on 900, 1250 a.m. You can also download the smartphone app and listen to it that way. And we just are by far the best coverage of high school football. I'm a correspondent at the moment. Then I go into the station and give a live post-game of my game and all that. And it's exciting. It's very really good for the kids, good exposure, all that. It's unfortunate at the moment that my alma mater is not a very good football team. They're very, very porous at the moment. But besides that, it's been a rebuilding year for a couple of years. But other than that, it's great. I love it, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Now, have we got a name for the show yet? Is that still kind of a little bit of...
Go to Pats Fan Insider, tweet me at Pats Fan Insider, and give me some ideas. Let me know what...
Let's keep it open.
See what we think.
Yeah.
But back to the big boys. Thank you very much. I appreciate
much
that.
deserved, Rich. And again, much success with with this opportunity, and you can rest assured you'll have one coach calling you from Merrimack every morning. So... every Saturday morning from 9 to 10.
Oh, yeah.
And a virtual Dave.
Maybe I'll wear the hat.
All right. So, as you said, let's segue back into, let's do a little preview in here. And I guess looking at next week, we're playing the Denver Broncos. But it's the new look Denver Broncos. Yeah. Seem to have a new offensive coordinator because their old one's now our offensive coordinator. And they got an old nemesis at the quarterback.
Yeah.
And, Virtual Dave, maybe you could tell us a little bit about who they got pitching for them this year.
Well, Peyton Manning, I think it's hysterical because I personally consider him a jackass, and he played for a Colt and he played for a Bronco, so it's just fitting that a mule plays for a team mounted by a horse. But besides that, Brady has not had a very good record against Denver. That's probably one of the worst records he's got against any team.
Not even Brady. I remember Bledsoe. We were out there for the
Denver.
Monday came out in Denver.
Denver was just Denver's Denver.
They've had a number.
But they're playing at home this week, and considering what we did in the second half of the Bills game, I think the offensive line is starting to gel together. And like Rich was saying before, that offensive line has got to be a cohesive unit for you to do anything. If you don't have that, you got nothing. The defense against Buffalo, especially that last stand that Vince ripped the ball out, they're at the 2. You're ready to go down 28-7. And here comes the captain of the team, bar none. He just comes through, blasting through, grabs the ball, momentum changes. I think they're just going to take that kind of momentum and go in, and they're just going to tear Manning's head off. Yeah,
I texted you, I think, right after that play, and I said, I think he just turned our season around.
He did.
And it just felt, because, again, that was prompted by a Mayo hit.
Yep.
Credit where credit's due, because he had 2, I think, fumble enabling hits. That
him and Spikes, they were just tearing people.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Spikes. Wow. No, I meant to say exactly right. So, so we turned it around with 2-2, as we said last week. I didn't really feel bad about 1 and 2, but, 1 and 3 would have been tough to take coming into this, So, Rich, what's your analysis of what we got looking at this Sunday?
Well, first of all, I want to let everybody know that if you don't already know, we've re-signed Bobby Carpenter, a linebacker that we had in the off-season, and we cut him, but we brought him back. And to me, a lot of people are going to read into the fact that it's because Hightower is nursing a hamstring injury, but I think there's more to it than that. Carpenter's a very, very good coverage linebacker. That's pretty much what he's known for. He's very good at shutting down those intermediate passes, and that's where Manning is making his money right now. He doesn't have the deep ball. He's really taking teams apart in the middle of the field, And that's really where we got exposed last week against the Bills. So I think Belichick really wants to shore that up. He brings in Carpenter. Maybe he can rotate him in and out with Spikes, put Spikes in on the first 2 downs and let him be the run stuffer that he is, and maybe rotate Carpenter in those nickel packages and give him a linebacker who's good at pass coverage. So I'm interested to see what they do with that.
So are you saying, Rich, that that's more of a Belichick tactical move to sign him, maybe just for this game even?
I think it's that. I mean, plus insurance on top of Hightower. But I think there is more to it than that. I think it does have some strategic value in it. And this defense, as you guys said, is very opportunistic this year. 11 turnovers forced in 4 games. Yeah. That is unbelievable. That's nearly 3 a game. And pretty much it seems to me whenever Brandon Spikes hits you, you fumble it because he just gives you such a bone-jarring hit. Yeah. And I know we were so high on the linebackers before the season started.
Absolutely.
Now the national media is starting to get in. They're basically saying that this team could have the best linebacking trio in all of football by the end of the year. I was saying 2 years. Now the national media is saying the end of the year. And I'm saying, I mean, duh. I mean, these 3 guys are unbelievable. Spikes is the run-stuffing machine. Mayo's just a sideline-to-sideline animal. And then you got Hightower, and we've seen what he can do. He can stuff the run, and he can drop in coverage with the passes.
And what did I hear? I think right before we started filming, Chandler Jones was named Defensive Player of the Month.
Yeah.
Rookie Defensive Player of the Month, which, fantastic. Just all positive signs.
And McCourty's coming back to form. He had that beautiful interception. The second one was beautiful. I mean, he read a lot of interceptions, like tip to you, this, that. I mean, he read that thing, made a play, undercut the receiver, and really made a nice play. And it's good for him, too, because he had 2 drops the week before against Baltimore, which one of them probably could have sealed the game. And instead, he comes back this week. Instead of hanging his head and being mopey about it, he makes 2 outstanding picks. So I like McCourty.
He's a real steady person, not only on the field, but off the field, too. I know he did some charity work, and they showed him after the Baltimore game, and a lot of people were trying to pin that on him. And again, just very genuine about it, and not afraid to take accountability for whatever was his part. But hey, and you give him a hard time when he has a bad game, so let's throw him some props when he pulls 2 down, And the rookie as well that was a tip ball, but
but he's playing well. The ball seems to find him every game. He seems to be there. Tennessee game, he had a ball to him. The second game, Arizona, I believe he had another fumble recovery that game. So the ball seems to find the kid. No,
you can't coach that.
And he's a smart kid. He knows his coverage. He knows what to do. And I'm even hearing some from the Patriots insiders that he might be challenging Patrick Chung for some more playing time towards the end of the year. Chung's gotten beat a few times, and they're not happy with him.
No.
And Wilson's just seems to, like I said, be around the ball, and that's what you want from your safety. I mean, that's why he's called a safety. He's the last end of your defense.
And if you look at the other side, Gregory, the guy they picked up, has been playing very solid. He really has.
Yeah,
he's very good. He's always around where he's supposed to be, which is what Belichick, just do your job. And when he's near the ball, he's taking people down. I do want to bring up one thing from last week. If anyone watched the Denver game last week, their wide receiver, Decker, there was a pass he went across the middle. It wasn't like they were trying to stop the clock or anything. He slid. He basically gave himself up like a quarterback. Now, if Manning's going to start throwing over the middle against that linebacking crew and those safeties, I just don't see Decker taking a dive or even going after a ball. I think he's going to come up with a lot of alligator arms like this. So. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
That's interesting.
I've never seen a receiver dive. I mean, granted, a lot of receivers, if they see they can't get anything, they'll dive forward, at least get the yardage. This guy slid like a quarterback, and that's just.
It wasn't a 2-minute situation, Scotty. It was just he just decided, I don't want to get hit. I'm going to slide in for this one.
And the clock kept running. They showed Manning running up, going, oh, there's Decker, sliding down, and he didn't even give the referee the ball. He just kind of stood there.
Wow. Nothing you'd probably see Gronk do, I guess.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I doubt it.
Well, and also speaking of tight ends, one of the strong rumors right now is that Hernandez might be dressed for this game, and I think it'd be a welcome addition. I know for my fantasy team it'd be a very welcome addition. But what are you hearing about it on the insider part?
I've heard that he did practice today, but I've heard that they're more preparing him for week 6. He might dress this week as an emergency situation, but I don't think they're trying to rush him back this week. I think it's more of a next week situation. But that's what they tell people. And then come kickoff, he's starting because they don't want anyone. I mean, that's Patriot 101 right there.
Right.
So, but that's the word coming that it's more of a week 6.
So not to fast forward too much to the sit-him play-him, but would he be on the sit-him or the play-him list this week?
I would
Just
sit him.
curious, you know.
You got to play short things in fantasy, and right now you can't put a guy in your lineup, especially in bye week situations where you already have starters sitting out.
Right.
You got to play guys that you know are going to get you points.
Yep.
And then if you look at last week, I mean, oh, by the way, Wes Welker ran for, he got 100 yards.
Yeah, let's end the phasing out Wes Welker talk. I think all that can end end right now.
You think it's
Yeah.
over?
I think we can
Edelman
kibosh
would be,
that.
I guess the fact that he's not playing obviously mitigates any type of controversy about how many balls going each way. But is it just that in those, because Belichick has proven that he game manages each and every individual game completely separate, and in some cases we'll take people in and sign them for games, a couple of games. But I don't know, where do you think Belichick is in his assessment of the team, and moving forward, where do you think he's going to have to move this team?
Well, I mean, I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get teams to want to play our run. And that's why we attacked the Buffalo Bills the way we did. I would not be shocked if we attacked the Denver Broncos the way we did in that game, because they have such a good pass rush, and one way to get to downplay their pass rush is to attack them with the run, and
The
to
ball
get those
control
guys
that goes with the
exactly,
run, sure.
and then kind of wear them down as the longer drive goes, and then the defense softens up and then loosens up, and then you can start to throw. I think that he's really trying to get back. I mean, when we won Super Bowls, we had a smash mouth running back, Antoine Smith, Corey Dillon. He likes to run the ball. Well, I know we've gotten into this passing era, but I think he looks at the San Francisco 49ers right now as the team to beat. And how do they get it done? They play smash mouth defense, and they hit you in the face, in the mouth on the offensive side of the ball as well with Frank Gore and that offensive line. I mean, they're not chucking it all over the field.
If there are any doubters, I think, into last week, watching that beating that they put on the New York Jets, 34-0, I would just love saying that. And just as a fantasy sidelight, too, I had the 49ers, as you know, my fantasy team, put up 29 points on the defensive side. I don't even know if I've ever seen defenses put up that much. That was amazing. So anyway, I think that probably pretty much wraps up what we think. We're all looking forward to again, it's always a close game.
It's going to be a great game.
These things are always
no
epic.
question.
And I just look at history. What that tells us is that Manning has had some of his worst games in Foxborough. And, just the epic game when he used to have the turf and not the AstroTurf, and he had the dirt hanging in his face mask. I think it was on the first year when we opened the stadium.
That picture is framed over so many bars in New England. It's just a classic.
When they let us in the stadium.
Yeah.
But that's a different time, a different story. So anyway, so that was game 1 of the Fab Four. So virtual Dave, you'll be picking for Dave. Speaking of the Fab Four, why don't we look at what we did last week, because I think it was kind of a fun week. I know I like talking about it. Last week, I went 3-1, which is
well done, sir.
Is very, very way better than I had been doing, obviously. So happy with 3-1. Rich, you went 2-2. Solid 2-2. A couple of upsets that happened.
Chiefs let me down.
And Scott, you were picking for Dave.
Yes.
And, he had made some maneuver there at the end. And some talk of police outside and tomatoes being thrown. I can never understand them. But in any case, you made the picks for Dave, and you did exactly what we wanted you to. And you went 1-3.
So basically, I'm back-to-back 1-3. So I'm blistering 2-6. Blistering.
And obviously due to the propeller. So when you sum up last week's performance, you look at overall. I actually have ascended back into the number 1 spot at a as you say, sizzling 7-9, sub 500. But it isn't. Anyway, it is what it is. On top, and both you and Dave are now at 6-10. So I think if the bar on the gauntlet is down, I think that being along the same side as Dave, I mean, that's got to be motivation to do a little bit better. So so let's play Fab Four. Why don't we?
All right.
So let's just go around quickly for the official. But again, the first game of the Fab Four is the Pats at home hosting the Denver Broncos. Scotty,
Pats.
while we
Pats again. Once again, I'm a homer.
You're?
Homer, homely. Yeah. Oh, stop. But it's I think it's the Pats. There's no way.
I'm going to go with the Pats as well.
You just can't beat that thing to death, can you? You just can't. I'm sorry.
Well, it's the only time I've got 2 wins in the entire time. Both wins are the Pats, so I have to repeat it.
You would think with the hat like that, you would go for the jackass. I'm just saying.
You got to give him at least 1 win a week.
All right. You toss him a bone, you go with the Pats because it's a pretty fair thing.
I can't pick against them.
I'm going with the Pats. I think it's going to be a tightly contested football game, but I think that, like I said, I think we're going to run the ball a lot, smash them in the mouth, and I think it's going to be a shootout. I mean, as good as I like our defense, the way we've been playing and everything I said earlier, with that said, I think we're going to get on them a little bit, and then, man, we're going to get in that silly old prevent thing where, you know.
Yep.
It prevents you from winning.
That's what allows those high-scoring things
So
when you don't really need to.
I'm going to go with 34-27.
All right, calling out numbers here, folks. I know you don't see that in every show. You know what I'm saying? Nice job, Pats fan inside. I'm also going to go with the Patriots. I'm just going to throw out a number out there. I'm thinking 35-21. And we'll see how that comes in. So anyway, that's game one of the Fab Four next week. Game two is Chicago going down to visit the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Chicago coming off a big week last week. Yep. Rich, why don't we start with you? Chicago at Jacksonville. Who do you like?
Chicago, I think they're going to romp them. Talk about defense and scoring fantasy points. Their defense were in the high 20s.
Absolutely.
After that 5-interception performance against the Cowboys. Jacksonville's 31st in the NFL in rushing yards allowed, and the Bears presented two-headed monster in Forte and Michael Bush. So I think they're going to talk about smashing you in the mouth, and they're going to run all over Jacksonville.
Barring the offensive line hanging Butler from the field goal post, and even in spite of him, Chicago, which can happen, absolutely. And I think most of Chicago was rooting for that. I agree with Rich. Chicago should kill him. Chicago should kill him.
All right, well, they should, and you guys are probably right. But I am going with the Jacksonville Jaguars due to the fact, a couple of things. One is they're home. Home teams tend to win some games. All right, just in general. There's no insight there. I'm just saying there's a likelihood that might happen.
Yeah.
And I love their symbol, the Jaguar, you know.
Okay.
All right.
And Chicago is coming off a short week. Monday night, high
it's
from
a classic
Dallas.
Trap game
I agree.
They just beat the hell out of
Exactly.
the
Good team,
Cowboys, and they're reading their own press, probably reading newspapers on the flight down to Jacksonville, maybe hanging by the pool bar a little heavy. You know, Dwayne Gibbert still isn't. I can't even say that with a straight face. Dwayne Gibbert is a good quarterback, and hey, on any given Sunday, you know. So anyway, I'm going with the Jaguars. Third game is actually it proves to probably out of the four that I see, one of the toughest games is San Diego going down to New Orleans and playing a feisty 0-4 New Orleans Saints team. Rich, why don't you tell me what you think is going to happen in this game?
Well, for starters, for football fans, you probably want to tune in because Drew Brees is going to break Johnny Unitas' touchdown record. So you probably want to tune in from a fan historian perspective just for that.
Yeah.
Did you hear too? Just to confirm, I think it's a great story.
Yeah, Peyton's allowed.
I'm sorry?
Oh, I thought you the coach Sean. They're going to let Sean Payton attend the game.
To come in and see that, right? And I think that's a great side story too. But also that Johnny Unitas' son actually reached out and sent him a message and encouraged. Well, I thought that was
awesome too. Yeah, it's real cool.
Yeah, you don't hear that enough of that stuff. I mean, that's how long is that set? That's a 40-year,
More than that.
year.
Like you
You're
said,
talking late 50s, 60s.
Yeah, what am I saying?
like you said, class act.
Yeah, very class act.
Total. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt, but
you're fine. No, I totally agree. I'm glad you said that for everyone that didn't
Yeah,
know that. I
that's
mean,
just-
great move.
so it's going to happen.
A lot
in
of
the game
people
at
can
some
learn
point.
from class act moves like that, you know. But with all that said, I think it'll be too much. I think it's going to be the Saints night. They're going to get off the schneid with the whole record-breaking thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a field goal game. San Diego is a pretty good team. They forced the Chiefs 6 turnovers last week. Their defense is better than people give them credit for. But I don't trust Phillip Rivers making decisions late in the game. So I'm going to go.
And it will probably come down to that.
That's what I'm thinking.
Close, yeah.
So I'm going to go with Drew Brees.
I just want to know, you're still a North Turner fan?
I'm a huge North Turner fan.
Oh, God.
Anyone that could have that many holes in his head and still coach a national football. I mean, I respect that, having a couple of myself. But anyway, I digress. So yeah, I'm a big North Turner fan.
I think, to be perfectly honest with you, I think New Orleans is going to come out this week and really show, enough's enough. They're too good of a team to be 0-3 right now, in my opinion. 0-4, that's right, I'm sorry.
Hold on. There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
All right.
But I'm thinking New Orleans is going to come out, and the Chiefs had a bad game last week. They were just horrible, surprisingly so. And I think that's San Diego took advantage of it. Nothing against that. They were smart. They took advantage of their chances. But at home, New Orleans, with a history on the line, and Sean Payton's going to be in the building.
Yep.
I just don't see them. No,
Right?
they're going to come
no,
out
no way in
raging.
hell, right?
I don't think
There's
so.
no way they can lose, right?
I don't.
I love San Diego in this game. I am picking San Diego as much as I love Jacksonville. I love San Diego. I think this is just a classic trap game. And
Against the grain this week.
Whenever you ever watch on the CBS, the other talking heads, I mean, they don't do the insight that we have here in the Bleachers. But whenever you see they have the little Jimmy Johnson and Terry Bradshaw, and when they all go the same way, when you really follow that history out, it almost always comes the other way. And this is one of those games. It's just so obvious to me that it just seems like they shouldn't even really cue it up, right? Take San Diego. Anyway, the coach is taking San Diego. And the last game of the Fab Four, real quickly, and then we're going to go over to fantasy sit-ems and play-ems. Is Atlanta coming up actually and visiting Washington at home at JFK, the rejuvenated JFK?
Yes.
So, Scott, why don't we start with you? What do you think here?
You know, it's a tough one for me because thankfully in my fantasy league I have RG3. He's been just phenomenal. But Matty Ryan's just been ice. And I got to go with Atlanta. I hate to say it, but I really got to go with Atlanta. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think Matty's going to pull it out.
Okay, you're going to go with the Falcons. Rich, what about you up here?
I'm going to go with the Falcons only because the Falcons' passing attack is prolific and Washington's secondary is ranked second to last in the league.
Those are pretty good things. Those are both pretty good things. I like the home. I like the home team here. I like Washington. I agree. Matty Ice having a remarkable season, but I think they get their first loss and. RG3 is hoisted off the field in the end, and really he should have had that homecoming last year, but that's why I think it's a little bit payback coming. All right, with the time we have left, Rich, why don't we go through your fantasy sit-ems and play-ems? And again, this list will be available at patsfaninsider.com this weekend, so when you're setting up your roster. And while you do that, Rich, I'm going to put this fabulous piece of artwork to the side. And, this is, again, one of your custom series. Scott, you want to talk a little bit real quickly before he starts?
That's basically the Denver Broncos mascot being tossed off a hill, and that was the horse that the mascot was on. As you can see, he's fighting for his life. And that's basically going to be the game.
And with that, we'll do the start-em, sit-em. I'll run through it real quick. Start Matt Ryan at Washington. Start Andy Dalton. If you didn't know, Andy Dalton has 20-plus points in his last 3 games. He's becoming a must-start. He's facing a Miami secondary that is porous. Frank Gore going against Buffalo. Buffalo just gave up 200-yard rushers in the same game, so you might want to start Frank Gore. Alfred Morris versus the Falcons. Cedric Benson facing the Colts. Jordy Nelson. No Greg Jennings this week, so start Jordy Nelson against the Colts. Reggie Wayne against the Packers, and Tony Gonzalez, the old man, still getting it done. Number 1 among tight ends. Sits Mike Vick facing Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's had 2 weeks to plan with the bye. They get healthy Troy Polamalu and James Harrison back. Probably want to sit Mike Vick. Benny Ellis, sit him versus the Dolphins. The Dolphins have the number 1 rush defense in all of football, and they give up only 35 yards a game on the ground, and they haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher in over 18 contests. Don't rush Rashard Mendenhall back in your lineup. Sit him versus the Eagles. Wait and see what he gives you. Fred Jackson and Stevie Johnson. You really don't want to play anyone versus the 49ers. And for tight ends, Brent Selleck. Don't play him against Pittsburgh. And a good defense to play. Who could you pick up? You might want to pick up the Giants home against Brandon Weeden. And the Cleveland Browns. Brandon Weeden's an interception throwing machine.
All right, I hope that was on your DVR so you can retract that a couple of times. A lot of good information. Rich, great job. Scotty, thanks for sitting in for Mr. McCray and Dave, wherever you are on Route 3. Great week.
Saturday mornings, 9 to 10.
Saturday mornings, 9 to 10.
12:50 a.m.
WGAM 590, The Game. Go Pats, everybody. See you next week.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. We should be thinking that within our building regs, that we should come the same way. I mean, in England, it's the same. You cannot buy, you simply can't get anything that isn't water efficient now, because for the same reason. Everybody's short of water, despite what you think about it. Always rains in England.
And New Hampshire too. New Hampshire gets a lot of rainwater, groundwater, and all that. In New Hampshire, I guess, in Merrimack, I guess our focus is on the water supply rather than the sewage, because the wastewater plant that we have has got a lot of capacity compared to the amount of water that we have. We discussed that, I think, a few meetings back. So we don't really have to worry about what's going out, just at least for now. It's coming in.
Did you want to follow up?
Yeah. I guess you're opening now for general comments on the whole chapter?
I think we're in there.
Yeah. Okay, well, I have a few things that I made note of. Under the electric section, right at the beginning, on electrical utilities, I know in some parts of New Hampshire, people can opt to use other than public service as a source of their electricity.
I think anywhere.
Anyway, power supply, yeah. There's no mention of that in here. You mentioned public service as if it were the one and only.
Well,
Yeah.
they're the distributors.
Yeah,
You can buy your power, as I understand it, you can buy your power supply from anywhere you want to.
that's what I thought, but there's no mention of
Okay.
that in here. Maybe it's worth a passing note. The natural gas, I already mentioned that I believe it's in Route 3 north. Should we have a policy on street lighting? This was something that it seems to be silent. We talk, there's a little casual mention of street lighting, but no overall philosophy of what we're going to do to light the streets in the town or what we should be doing. It's a little bit haphazard how street lighting has evolved. In some cases, developers put them in. In some cases, the town's gone back and tried to cut back on the number of street lights. But I think we need some kind of statement that says what our philosophy is, or develop a philosophy or a strategy for street lighting in general. And in conjunction with that, maybe parking lots as well. And we've talked about dark skies type of lighting with the down shield and all of that. And maybe I believe that should be part of the master plan as well. It's in our regulations now for planning board
But
regulations.
that doesn't mean it shouldn't be in the master plan.
Yeah, it should be in the master plan to sort of think about it generally in
That's a
town.
good point.
Yeah, okay. One thing about cellular phone coverage, there are in the town what I call weak spots, or places where there's a half a bar, if that. Well, here there's two, but there's plenty along Route 3, but out in the western parts of town, there are places that are dead or almost dead. It just might be worth mentioning. It's probably not cost effective to put a tower out there, but now with the population density being what it is, but it's something to take note of. Next things I had was on page 4. It talks about, let me see, the expansion of broadband and how broadband is coming, and more of it is coming, and we want it to be distributed throughout the town. There's a statement there in the third paragraph that says the town should monitor these initiatives, that is the initiatives of new broadband things coming in order to determine how best to leverage improvements to broadband access across Merrimack as the technology continues to move forward. It doesn't say who should be doing that, and I guess.
You mean who in the town?
Yeah, who in the town? We do have a technology committee. I don't know if it's their job or, but somebody should have the ball on that.
Who has the jurisdiction for, I assume that there's